Fantastic day, right?
Yeah, fantastic day for cricket, fantastic day for West Indies. They proved our prediction wrong by a good margin too.
And neither of us is actually feeling sad about it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But it was such an important occasion on so many levels. Test cricket coming back after such a long layoff, and to see West Indies win and win so comprehensively. So let me ask you this first: do you think was it just an against the odds win, or because West Indies throughout this Test match looked like the team to beat, right? Except for the first hour of the last day.
Yeah, it was an against the odds test match in itself, to
Yeah,
begin with,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and considering the fact that West Indies, despite being one of the more settled units in the last year or so, especially or a couple of
Mm,
years,
yeah.
they are still one of those teams that are never rated highly, thanks to
Correct.
themselves primarily, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
their perspective, it was indeed against the odds. When it came
Yeah.
to England, had if they had to win, besides the layoff that everyone has had, the fact that
Mm,
it was Ben Stokes who was leading them for the first time, from their perspective also, it was in so many ways against the odds.
correct.
And today, eventually, to score 200 on day 5, even though the pitch
Yeah.
hardly had any demon in it, the fact
Correct.
that West Indies managed to do it with relative comfort. Okay, it was
Yeah.
tense, but it
Yeah.
wasn't thrilling in the end.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
that was the only missing part from a spectator perspective. Otherwise, the script would have been more than ideal, right?
Yeah.
But still, I
Absolutely.
would say none of us would have asked for a better return of international cricket than what we have witnessed over the last 5 days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what a spectacular innings from Jermaine Blackwood as well.
And Blackwood is one of those, as in, you don't get a second chance,
Yeah.
especially in modern day professional sport, right?
Yeah.
So he lost his place in the side, in the Test side in 2017. For a couple of
Mm,
years, he proved himself at the domestic level,
yeah.
something that the Caribbean domestic cricket beyond the Caribbean Premier League is not really
Mm,
followed by anyone outside Caribbean. So for
yeah.
most
Yeah.
of us, Jermaine Blackwood was a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Suddenly, we
Yeah.
saw him as a concussion substitute during the India series last year. But still,
Mm,
he had to wait for his second chance. He has
mm,
had a prolific domestic season. His last
yeah.
innings was almost 250 odd, okay, against Leeward
Mm,
Island. So,
mm,
but considering the fact that he was in a way making a comeback,
mm,
the concussion substitution innings aside, he was making a
yeah.
comeback. He threw his wicket away in the first innings, and to
Yeah.
play the kind of innings that he played today was indeed incredible to witness. Incredible to witness.
Correct.
See, he did
Absolutely.
offer a chance.
Mm,
There was a run out chance, clear run
yeah.
out chance for him
Zach
also.
Crawley. Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
fact that he never appeared to be bogged down either by the occasion or the pressure, right?
Correct.
He
Correct.
just looked like that typical good old batsman in Test
Mm,
cricket who wanted to occupy the crease, who wanted to bat
yeah.
time. Once you do
Yeah.
that, and if you have strokes, the runs are bound to flow, which is
Yeah.
exactly what happened with his innings. So,
Yeah.
despite that early setback when they had lost 3, they had an
Mm,
opener who was retired hurt. They were
yeah.
not sure back then whether he would be able to bat.
Mm,
At that point in time, eventually everyone had thought that it was again going to be a matter of whether Jason Holder can help them cross the line
correct.
or not. But then came Blackwood, and he just saw them through, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, he couldn't get to the 3-figure mark and remain not out.
Mm.
Again, in a way, threw his wicket away. But by then, I think his job was well and truly done.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And what's good you mentioned about biding time, because what was also interesting was I think the second session is exactly where England sort of lost plot of the match. I think 30 overs, West Indies scored some 108 runs for the loss of just 1 wicket of Roston Chase. So throughout the run chase, they were scoring at around 2.93 runs an over, which didn't really give England. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's where England had their best chance also of sealing the game,
correct.
right?
Yeah,
In
correct,
in that
absolutely.
in
They had
that
three
3 over
chances.
period, they had 3 chances, right?
Correct, correct. Yeah, yeah,
Had
absolutely.
at least 2 of them been capitalized,
Mm.
perhaps we would have been discussing something else right now.
Correct,
Instead of
correct.
instead of ending
Yeah.
with the England 11 selection, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Because I mean, I think both batsmen, both Chase and Blackwood gave opportunities. There was a run-out chance that went begging, and of course, Ben Stokes and his ability to sort of create chances out of thin air has been talked about at length in the past. Today also we saw he brought himself into the attack and straight away got a wicket. So do you think that decision came slightly too late in the run chase? Maybe he could have considered bringing himself on a little earlier?
Yeah, but maybe as in I feel perhaps it's the captain in Ben Stokes that sort of overshadowed the bowler in Ben Stokes.
Yeah,
Had he not been leading this team, like you said, perhaps he would have got the ball slightly earlier.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
but that tends to happen when you're leading the side. You tend to get yourself back into the attack relatively late. It happens with a lot of captains, right?
mm,
But that's
mm.
okay. The other aspect of the day is we spoke about Blackwood, we spoke about Ben Stokes.
Yeah,
Holder, as usual, the non-current holders saw them through,
yeah,
but it was the other West Indian, now the
mm,
Englishman, obviously. There was
yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
talk about
Acha. Yeah,
how how just off color he was in the first innings,
yeah,
and he just showed what Jofra Archer can do, right? When the
yeah,
pitch
absolutely.
had anything to do with it,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
virtually single-handedly uh, put them ahead in the first innings. And again, it's like that the wicketkeeper was so fortunate with the short ball
mhm,
ploy. He just somehow survived. Okay,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
looked like Jofra Archer, every time the ball was thrown to him, he looked like running through the side, not just picking a wicket. But it was one
yeah,
of those days that Blackwood's composure and
mm,
a little bit of luck to the at the other end meant that
correct.
Archer had to be on the losing side, but he didn't
Yeah.
really deserve to, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Especially the delivery to get rid of Roston Chase. I mean, the bounce he got from a relatively dead pitch, it was amazing. I mean, any other day, maybe slightly helpful conditions and with some luck, this could have easily gone England's way.
Exactly, and he repeated the same in the next over, right, with the Dowrich when the decision was
Yeah,
overturned. That again,
yeah,
as in, it's incredible when you come up with this on day 5 of a test match.
yeah, absolutely. And especially when you've not done well and there's so much talk, because I mean, Archer, as much as his talent is visible, there's like always the talk leading up to a series involving him has been about how, and especially after last year's Ashes, about how his pace, the raw pace that he generates, can be so troubling for the batsman. So I think even mentally, if you're a fast bowler, to have a bad day in the office, then come back and, as you said, single-handedly put your team in a position from where they can consider fighting back. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, if only, who knows, if Stuart Broad was around, probably he could have helped Archer a bit. But so, do you see Broad now coming back for the Manchester Test?
I don't know, he should possibly, but again, that's where the one of the main difference between the sides lay, I feel, because
Yeah.
West Indies went ahead with an all-pace attack. They had four
Mm.
specialist pace
Correct.
bowlers, something
Yeah.
that England, and today we saw eventually Dom Base is not that sort of a bowler. I don't think he's experienced at international cricket to keep one end tight, if not run through
Yeah.
the side on day 5. So
Correct.
eventually,
Correct.
Dom Base's utility, as in, he wasn't really utilized in his
Mm.
primarily skill. So possibly
Yeah.
that is where England got it wrong. And it would be interesting what eventually they end up doing, whether to get Broad in place of Mark Wood or even Chris Wokes has been
Yeah.
phenomenal over the
Yeah.
last
And
couple of
Wokes
years. So
adds
again,
batting as well to the dimension.
it's like
His
one of
batting.
those cliches that we can end with, that every captain and coach, especially in pre-match presses, that too in subcontinent, say that it's a happy headache to have. England
Yeah.
cannot ask for a happier headache in so many ways, but ultimately
Correct.
they have to get the combination right when it matters the most.
Correct. And even for West Indies, I mean, Rakim Cornwall sat out the Test match. There was talk about how he could have played here, considering the ball tends to turn. So yeah, I mean, plenty of happy headaches for both sides as they head to Manchester. What is already proving to be a pretty promising series. So let's see how things pan out when the teams meet in Manchester on July 16. Manchester is where they'll end the series as well, two back-to-back matches. So yeah, plenty to look forward to.